we will get started here since we're already after the hour. There's someone else coming on in. Well, welcome. This is Dawn Rickabaugh, your host of Owner Financing and Notes, Property and Paper. I guess this would be on my note investing and owner financing podcast. If you're watching me on the podcast, if you're listening to me on the podcast, please subscribe and come on over to notequeen.com and sign up. It would be wonderful to have you on YouTube. If you could subscribe and like and all of that good stuff, I really appreciate it. What we talk about here is real estate investing and note investing, and where those two are joined at the hip is seller financing. So once you understand the secondary market for notes, a little bit about the note business, I'll tell you what, it just opens up an amazing amount of opportunity. So wonderful. Brenda, Robin, great. You made it in. Anyhow, you know what? I'm just going to start with a conversation that I had this week with someone. They had a friend of theirs who inherited a property, and they had it listed for $600,000. Okay, there's two heirs. They're going to split this house. It's a little complicated because one of the, I don't know, a niece or nephew or grandson or somebody, some family member has been living in the house for a number of years and just assumes that they own it because they've lived there for a long time. And so they're not exactly cooperating with the sale. And they started listing it at $600,000. They finally got an offer for $300,000. And then even that fell through. Okay. And this is a house that a little bit of a rural area. I think it's East Oregon somewhere, and probably needs some work. And I guess after the inspection, it fell through. And also the current tenant, like I said, a family member, isn't making it particularly easy, to do, to process everything. So one of the things he was asking me about is like talking to his, I don't know if it's a friend or a family member. I think it's just a good friend. And he's trying to get him to carry paper. So anyway, what do you guys think? But he's telling his friend, hey, you might just have to be, willing to carry paper if there's some things that won't pass inspection or people are weary of the price. You're going to probably do better if you carry the paper. Of course, it's free and clear. And so those are exactly the types of situations where now if I'm looking at it, and I said to this other gentleman who's in our group here that shows up sometimes, his name is Don also. There's a few of us, Dons. And I said, Don, I would be interested in this from both a property and a paper situation, right? So, now maybe I might not want this particular property, but I would put on the real estate investor hat if I could get really good terms, right? If I could get a good price, a fair price, and well below market terms. So that's one way I would look at it. The other way that I would look at it is if you just want my help in putting together your owner finance deal, advertising this a certain way, putting your note together, putting your transaction together. I do have a little product that helps with that when people want to do it yourself, but gosh, I'd be happy to do it, help you put the deal together, make sure, from A to Z, all of that. And then you and your sister decide how much money do we need at closing. And I can potentially, if you don't need any money, great. You just keep that cash flow. And then it's just not your problem anymore. Let somebody else, deal with an eviction if necessary, and all of that. And if you need a little bit of money, I will structure a note that I can buy so that you can get some money at the closing. So that was my comments. Any other feedback? What would you do if you'd inherited a property? It's free and clear, but it's way across. It's not close to you. Don't even live in the same state. You got a family member thinking that they own it and they don't want to move out, needs some work, but you're never going to be able to get it done, what would you do?
I'd list it as it comes with a live-in handyman.
Yeah, the live-in handyman. Yeah, that's interesting. A
Sell,
handyman that lives there and doesn't pay rent. That's
sell
good.
the tenant with it. Yeah.
My comment is a lot of times, in some areas of the country, and I was just on a phone with someone this morning in Iowa, and they're just saying, you know what? Here in Iowa, we feel like we're in a little bubble and we don't have big price appreciation. We don't have big drops. We just feel like we're in our own little nirvana here. The market's great. The market's stable. Everything's happening. Development loans, everything's going along. So, but other areas, they're really starting to suffer. And, properties are sitting on the market longer and longer, and they're not getting the offers. Buyers in some areas are just kind of holding out, and they're like, nope, not going to pay those prices, not going to, not going to pay those rates. So more and more seller financing in some areas is really going to make the difference between selling at all, maybe, and for sure it can maximize the price, right? The thing that I find really interesting that I just think it's so odd, and this is one of my passions, is to correct this. But don't you think it's odd that the people that carry paper that end up offering owner financing or seller financing, don't you think it's odd that 99% of them don't find out that there's a secondary market for notes, that there is a place or a way to sell the note that they just created? Don't you think it's weird that the only way they find out about it is they start getting postcards and letters 4 to 6 weeks after they close? And by then, right, by then, the value of the note's already baked in. There's no renegotiating and changing it. But in the context of it potentially costing people tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, don't you think it's odd, that nobody tells people that there's a secondary market for notes and then sets up the note accordingly with an eye to that in mind? I just think that's really quite outrageous. I see the raised hand is Svetlana. Do you want to unmute and let's chat and tell me a little bit about yourself? Welcome.
Hi, yes, I was waiting for my turn. I have a sunset on the background, and because I am in coastal Georgia area, and I specifically moved there from Seattle, Washington, to be in a note business, to be an originator of notes, which that's what I do. And I have a question in that connection. I usually I sell the properties on terms to end buyers, to people who will live there and use the property as a primary residence. But
Right.
just lately, I sold to an investor, and I originated that investor loan, and that I'm planning to sell. And the thing is, he came up with a great down payment. He pays regular. He pays as a clock, but he did not have great credit score. Basically, he did not
Mhm.
have any at all.
That's
And he, but sorry.
that's interesting.
Yes, so he is a local South Georgia investor. He owns a trailer park there, and he develops some land. So he came up with 20,000 down payment on 220 220,000 sale, so 10% almost.
Okay.
And the usually I sell at 10% rate. That's what happened. So 10%, 360 months. And the seasoning time is just 3 months now.
Mhm.
So I am trying to season the note before I put it for sale. I'm just thinking of how can I make it better for my buyer. Um, Besides, I show this paying history. Besides that, uh, taking that the person, the buyer of the property doesn't have the any credit. His plan is to improve the property a little and rent it out. So I am in contact with that person all the time. I'm keeping an eye on the property, what he's doing there. So my idea is to just, when he rents it out, just ask him to give me a copy of the lease, and yeah, try to be on top of that. But what else can I do to make this existing paper better and
Okay.
get it ready for sale?
Okay, thank you very much. So can I just reflect what I think I heard you say?
Mhm.
Okay, so you were living in Seattle and you moved to Georgia so that you could buy properties cash or cash or what in whatever way, and then do owner financing, either
Correct.
mostly to homeowners, but in this case, you sold to an investor. Am I
That is correct.
understanding? Okay. And then I think there's a good point from Shri. When you say you went there to originate loans, did you end up getting a license since you're doing quite a few of these, more than just one? Doing
No,
them.
I use the mortgage loan originator to help me with that.
Okay. And I think, Shri, can you comment on that? Because I think Georgia's one of those states, it doesn't matter if you use, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but just use this as a great teaching opportunity. But there's some states where you have, just to be the beneficiary on a note deed of trust, you have to be licensed. I believe that's true. I don't know if Shree's still here, but
That's true when you originate more than 5 notes per year.
oh, and you don't do that?
I do. I mix it with North Carolina and Florida, so I try to be in compliance. When I get over 5 in Georgia,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I'll get licensed.
Yeah, and just out of, okay, thank you for saying
Yeah,
that. You know, and sometimes we're doing the best we can, but you have to balance, risk reward, what makes sense. But just as a matter, it's just such a pain, isn't it? I mean, you can't even, some of these states, you can't even just feel confident when you hire an MLO. Who do you use? Is it a local mortgage broker or one of the
the
national?
national, they call their underwriter.
Yeah, call the underwriter. Okay, good, because I've pitched him before. So them, I think he sold the business. It's probably a different entity.
No, I speak with Matt. I just spoke
Oh,
with
is it?
him. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you can just never trust gossip now, can you?
That's
Okay,
true.
yeah, so interesting. So usually you take 10% down, whether it's an investor or an owner occupant,
That's correct.
and you charge 10% interest,
That is my lowest, yes.
the lowest. What's usury in Georgia?
Where in Georgia?
Usury, like what's the interest rate limit? How high
Oh,
can you
usually. Oh, uh, I think it's 12. To be honest, I need to double check on that.
Okay, interesting. Different states have different usury laws, and then you usually amortize over 30 years, and normally you just keep the notes for the cash flow, right?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I sell them.
Okay. Um, Now in this situation, if you don't mind, when did you buy the property and for how much? And it's a house, you said, right?
It is a house. Yes, I market. I'm trying to, get a good deal of buying of market properties. and
Yeah.
network with local realtors and market to directly to home sellers and
Oh,
try to
great.
find a good deal. Yeah.
So just give me an idea, ballpark of what you picked this property up for. What's your acquisition?
Yeah, that was 150.
150. And
Yes.
did you put any money into it?
That property just needed some general cleaning, so I would say a couple of thousand.
Okay, so then you're only in at 152. You sold it for 202. And if you take 20,000 down, so basically you're looking at what, 50,000 of equity between the note, so 50, 70,000, right? You sold it for 70,000 more than you're in
That
it.
is correct.
Okay, so out of curiosity, what's your goal? Why would you be selling? Because I mean, if you were to sell this for cash, what would you have gotten?
The house, the
Yeah,
property
like
itself,
if you just cleaned it up and then threw it back on the market with a realtor, what do you think you would have gotten?
that is a difficult question because I've never sold without terms. So I don't know, probably um
Just take a guess.
160 maybe. Well, because I had to compete with local flippers when I was buying, and so I guess if I just cleaned it up, it would be probably, yeah, 160 probably.
Okay, so after you pay the realtor, there would be no profit in there.
Yes, no profit. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So basically, if if I ordered an appraisal or a broker price opinion, it would come back at 160.
Well, because my buyer is improving it right now. Maybe it's already in a good shape. That's why that is why I'm keeping an eye on him. And you know,
Okay, so if you would have improved it, what's like the best
the
upgrade?
after repair value is probably, yeah, probably what I sold it for, 225 from 225 to 250. Depends
Oh,
on
okay.
the, yeah, on the
Okay.
quality of the repairs and materials. And
So basically, this guy's willing to pay the after repaired value, even though he's doing all the repairs, because you're giving him financing.
exactly.
So basically, you're selling for 60,000 more than market because you're offering terms, and you're not even offering like less than banks. You're having them pay 10%, but you're fully amortizing over 30 years, and he only has to put up 10%. So isn't that quite incredible? Talk about creating equity out of thin air, right?
It is. Yes. And
Right.
I have a like list of potential buyers, people uh,
That
need
know that you do
financing,
this
people
every
who
day.
cannot get traditional financing. They want me to bring them another the house. They want me to, and there is a word of mouth. People
Right.
talk about that there is an opportunity like that, and they're reaching out.
Yeah, interesting. So, okay, so I'm just, what do you have you based on your selling the notes before, what are your expectations? I'm just curious because
Well, yeah,
I'm
my
gonna put this
expectation. I'm sorry.
I'm putting this note in the calculator. I'm
Hmm.
gonna share my screen. Can you guys see this? Um,
Yes.
and 10%
So the
amortized.
note is 200,000 itself.
Oh, 200,000?
Yeah,
You sold it for 220 and he,
220. Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking yes.
yeah. Well, because there was this 2,000 that
Okay, great.
I
Okay,
put
so
in.
this is what he's paying for P&I, 1755 a month.
Yes, and he is paying 350 per month for tax and insurance.
So you have
And
you have it impounded,
of course, yes.
right? And you have it serviced with someone?
Well, I have not put that is my another question because I feel that not all of the servicing company are doing as good of a job as they're supposed to. So, so I'm holding on to that because it's been a mess before sometimes. So I will though, if especially when when I know my exact exit, I will
Yeah,
put it.
you can, I guess I don't know Georgia intimately, but for sure consumer loans, it's very, very dicey to in this climate to service the consumer loans. So just, I know I remember a friend of mine in the business put it very well. It's like note services are just a bunch of pirates. You just got to pick one of them that's the least offensive and go with it, you know? Because I've had troubles with all of them, and some of them are mostly good, but you know, you're just it's kind of a grab bag is my experience. But
And
anyway, yeah. So consumer loans, just in general, should always be serviced by a licensed servicer because if you ever have a problem and you go to foreclose, you won't be able to do it. I mean, most attorneys aren't going to take you on if it hasn't been
well,
serviced.
actually, my attorney is there for me or for my note buyer. She's just you know, just ready to foreclose. And Georgia is a non-judicial state, so the foreclosure time is 2 months exactly, and like literally, we get the property back in 2 months. And I definitely share my attorney's contact with my note buyer so that if they need, God forbid, to foreclose, the
Uh-huh.
system is there.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna quit pontificating about it. And the thing is, all right, so what's your expectation? Here's you've got this note, you said you have three payments so far, so minus three, you've got 350 payments left. What is your price expectation based on your experience of selling notes before?
Well, yeah, I would like to see 90%
Okay. So
of the
basically,
note.
let's see what we have here. So basically that's, and you want 90%. Let's see if I do 90% of that. If someone pays you this, the yield, oops, I hate it when I do that. Darn it. 90% of the balance, and I'm going to enter it here. That would be a yield of basically a little bit over 11% for someone.
Yes,
Is that what you've sold for before?
that is correct.
And is that to I think that is a phenomenal that's a phenomenal deal for you. Uh especially since there's, 10% down, no credit, long term, and that currently we don't know if he's finished his renovations, but really this amount 179 or 180, call it 180, is above market value, as is market value. So if you can get this, I think without credit, I don't know for sure, but I think the institutional buyers might have a trouble with that. But do you have private people that you can go to that would eat this up?
Well, that is yeah, I mean I really sincerely want to make it as attractive as possible, especially because I'm still in the contact with my property buyer and I know his plans, and my plan is to just keep an eye on the renovations, take like good pictures after he's done, take a lease agreement from him to attach to the file.
Right.
Again, put it with a service in servicing with a servicer, and that hopefully will make the note as attractive as possible. But yeah, and my question was, can you think about anything else that
Yeah.
you
Okay. So let me just go back to some basic foundational principles. I mean, for me, This is not something I could do. How about you, Dave Kurtzman, Shri? Is David still here? I saw him before.
Hi there.
Dave, oh, great to see you. What do you think about this? What's your comments? Would you buy this note at an 11% yield amortized over basically the next 30 years based on what we said? Have you heard the chat so far?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean,
As is value, quick 30-day as is value could be 160. We don't know.
yeah,
How-
I mean, considering the note is greater than the value of the property, I wouldn't do it without a guarantee or additional collateral.
Additional collateral. Okay, that's a good point. Like if Svetlana has something else, she says, hey, if this goes bad, I've got a bunch of equity in this other property that, that I'll
Yeah.
put up as additional collateral. Great point.
Yeah, I like long-term notes. I'm weird. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, but I'm also 80, so it's just, I don't want to deal with problems, and that's why I would probably stay away from this note.
right. Because it has a better, greater than average chance, just because traditional underwriting, and the farther you get away from traditional underwriting, which is take the appraised actual cash value right now,
Mhm.
get a 20% down payment or more. What you're doing great, Svetlana. I mean, that's a great interest rate if you can get it. A bigger down payment would really help. Knowing for sure, I don't know. I guess to me, I would approach this more as a partial, but that's not what you're trying to do. Just I would say, hey, I'll buy the next 5 years or 7 years of payments from you. It gives you a little bit of money because by the time you take the discount, you've got a $70,000 spread. And if you take, much more than a $20,000, $30,000 discount, it's kind of like, it kind of takes away the fun of doing the deal, right? So,
Well, it depends on the note buyer's interest. Like what's
yeah.
like, some
Yeah, I'm
people can take more. I mean, it depends on the goal of the note buyer.
of course. And so you've got people that are more short-term minded and some, like Dave just said, are more long-term minded. And now if the value of the property was right now 250, and he's only coming in with 180, or if it's 300,000 and he's only coming in at 60 65 cents on the price of the property, right? So investment to value is not the amount of the loan. It's like if Dave came in and paid you the 180 that you want and the property's worth 300,000, that's a different thing than paying 180 on a property that maybe is worth 180 right now, right? Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, and if you had to foreclose and take it back, that's going to cost, you're going to lose 15 to 25,000 taking it back.
I apologize. I just need to understand where this number is coming from because I just paid 2,000 in my state in the state of Georgia for the foreclosure.
Well, in terms of delinquent payments,
Oh, okay,
repairs, if they
gotcha.
haven't paid that, they haven't paid their taxes, et cetera. So, I mean, by the time you take it back and are able to turn it around, it adds up to an awful lot of money.
I understood.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And I understand the 2,000.
Yeah, and in Georgia, you have it better than most people, I would say, because a lot of us are used to, gosh, we're lucky if we're done in a year, and forced place insurance, and what if they've done damage to the property, or I've a couple of times I've had to take properties back where they were in the middle of a rehab, so like they'd rip the walls apart. You
Oh
know
my
what I mean?
gosh,
Oh,
that's a nightmare.
we meant to get to it, but we just, you know.
Interesting.
But anyway, to me, always, if you're going to make a note more valuable, bigger down payment, more down payment is better, and the interest rate, yeah, I don't know, you could do better on that. That's a pretty good interest rate. You got to match it with, he's an investor, it still has to make sense for him somehow. Right. I'm guessing, I don't know how it makes sense for him. Are rents really outrageous there? I mean,
The rents there is a submarine military base there. And
okay, because
yeah, the rents are high, but I think he wants to do he wants to turn it into assistance living house, assistant living
Oh,
house or
okay.
assistance.
So in that case, because if he's paying you 1,800 and it's three something for taxes and insurance, this guy's in it to 2,100, 2,200. And, he would barely break even with a normal tenant. But if he's breaking it up for assisted living, now that can cash flow, what, 4 times normal, probably? I don't know.
Yeah, and he just bought the next door property, so he wants to manage both
Mhm.
with like one stone, I guess, or whatever it's called. So
Interesting.
it will be, yeah, for him probably pretty lucrative.
One of the things I would consider in something like this would
Mhm.
be, obviously he's looking at, he seems to not care if he's overpaying for the property because he sees the income potential. So overpaying $30,000 doesn't mean anything if it's the right deal. And whether or not you could structure a note where the monthly payments increase significantly once he gets operational as the group living or whatever it's going to be, because personally, notes that have a thinner equity, I like a big monthly payment, because if they have a thinner equity, they're more likely to maybe fall behind on their payments. And if you've got a fairly large payment, you can always reduce it and
If
try
anything.
so that you've got a little bit of leverage or a little bit of opportunity to work with them.
Understood.
So just some thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds
Thanks,
great.
Dave.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you so much for
Yeah,
discussing the deal with me.
I don't know that we helped you a lot there, but if you can
No.
find someone to give you the 180 on that's local, that knows the deal, or just has the appetite for this, I would. But for me, even it wouldn't be enough. At the most, I would come in with a partial purchase, and so it means you wouldn't take much of a discount, but you wouldn't get your money, shaking loose of it. So if you could take a partial, you're in a much better, you have a lot more options for, not taking a big discount. But on this, I would, even though the note balance is 200,000 or 199, I wouldn't start with that. Me personally, I just, as a third party all the way across the country, I look at it like, I start with the as is value of the property. And then I go down from there. Okay, I only want to be 65% exposed. So I'm not looking at 65% of 200,000. I'm looking at 65% of maybe, if you told me quick cash value is only 160, that's how I would start. And so that's a pretty nasty discount. So just for kicks and giggles, and actually I wouldn't, you're saying, oh, I want to keep track of the lease and what he's doing. And I think that's great for you to do, but that doesn't necessarily add value to me. That doesn't, because at the end of the day, that lease could go bad, or his plans, or he doesn't get a permit. What happens if he doesn't get a permit, or the city shuts him down for some reason? I've had that happen as well, where someone was making $8,000 a month, and then the city came and shut them down and yanked it, and then it went into foreclosure because then they couldn't afford anything, right?
That's possible, of course.
There's a lot of things that could happen. I don't know if you feel comfortable putting the last comment that I'll make, and please anyone else jump in, is you might want to just put in, if he'll agree, a balloon of some sort, that maybe you're not going to force him to, you're not going to foreclose, but a balloon of some sort is a way for you to have okay, at 5 years, at 7 years, at 10 years, I want the option to come and revisit this, maybe ask for an additional principal reduction. Like, hey, it would help a lot if you were getting additional principal reductions, or you at least have the option to say, okay, we're at year 5, I'm looking for principal reduction. I'd like to increase the interest rate, or I'm willing to decrease it. Or, I don't know, if it's allowed, based in Dodd-Frank and all of that in your state, I would just think about that because it's just an option for you to come back and renegotiate terms or ask for something more, in exchange for carrying the note. But you're trying to sell it out. Shri, do you have any comments on this?
My mic seems to be trouble. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So, Svetlana, first, great job on creating the note. So a couple of things, right? First of all, Georgia requires a license to originate to homeowners or non-owner occupied. I'm
ahead.
calling from my phone now.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
much
yes.
better.
Wow.
Much better.
Okay.
Okay.
So first thing is license, because it is pretty hefty fine over there for each note, and Georgia is ridiculous in the sense they check your property records and go back and check and then fine them. So you're as good as until you got caught. And although it's expensive and the renewal is also expensive, it is definitely worth if you're going to originate more and more notes in Georgia. The other thing is, I think most of the guys, David and Don, pretty much hit all the points, wherein it's a good idea to sell a 1C, 2C buyer, I get it. But if you want to do it on a repeated basis, you want to have, at least you want to know if you don't find a local buyer, where would I go sell it? So there are institutional buyers that will buy your notes, right? So what you want to do is you want to design your note or structure your note wherein they will buy it. So if the LTV and the ITV are not up to par, they will not buy it. So basically what you're doing is you are eliminating a whole section of buyers that will buy your notes.
Yeah, basically, Shri, what you're talking to is the point that the note balance is higher than the value of the property. So just that alone, the institutional buyers are just gone, right?
Yeah. So one other thing, right? She could still come up with a total CLTV of that, but she could create a first and a second, right?
That's right.
First could be 70% LTV, and the rest of it, whatever she wants to do, can be the second LTV.
That's right. That's great comment. I forgot to think of that.
Yep. So she can sell the first, so she's liquid and move on to the next deal.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great idea. I've done it before. Yes, it's a great strategy. Yes.
Yes. The comment I forgot, this laptop setup, there was one other comment. Yeah, servicing, get the servicing for sure. And one of the things you said, it costs $2,000 to do foreclosure. That's great. But generally what happens is you might have a local attorney that does it for cheap. But generally, like me, I buy in 39 states. So for me, I have a sort of, Rolodex of attorneys, foreclosure attorneys in different states. So even if somebody's cheaper, I would not go to him. Just the reason being, I've worked with that attorney in the past. Although she or he charges me a little bit more, I don't have to worry about it getting done. So I'm not micromanaging it. What they will know at each milestone when to reach out to me and all of that. Just keep going. They invoicing me, the bill gets paid automatically. So I don't have to worry about it. And I know I cannot do it for $2,000 with my attorney. And
Understood.
One other thing is, you're only looking at a foreclosure where it is uncontested. If the borrower files a bankruptcy, it is not $2,000 anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
So if his plans to do the assisted living don't pan out, he can go like, whoops, this doesn't make sense anymore. And if he's nice, he'll just give it back to you. And maybe so, especially in Georgia, when I don't know, what's the longest someone could stretch it out, do you think, in Georgia? If they fought it and if they're
John, if they keep filing bankruptcy one after the other, because I've seen people file bankruptcy one after, like 13, 7, again 13. So you're looking at just a year to 15 months.
Yeah, even in Georgia, with a 2-month.
No, bankruptcy has nothing to do with which state it is, right? It has to go through the state. They can delay it based on the process.
You know what? I thought that they put a cap on that, not to, a few years back, where you can't do the back-to-back
Uh,
bankruptcies.
funny that you say that. I'm dealing with right now. I don't see any caps.
Are you still have trauma brain from your New York note?
No, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. But
I think
I'm
you
done.
probably have PTSD from that one. That sounded like a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got a few of them, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
so
and,
that's
and
what
Don,
I
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead. Do it.
uh,
Thanks, Sri.
Thank
let,
you.
let me throw in that thing about getting a cram down in the bankruptcy court. Because remember, I
Yeah.
sent you a copy of that. Nobody believed it happened.
Oh, that's right.
I
Remind me.
I had a 10% note, um, and they filed a bankruptcy. They filed a 13, and the judge modified the note. It was 10%. I think it was due in about 5 years or so. The judge, now I was out of the country and was in no position to respond to it, but the judge changed the note to 4.5% 30-year amortization
Oh, wow.
Oh
in
my
in bank
goodness.
in bankruptcy court. And I now have a 30-year amortized 4.5% note. And
Well,
absolutely nothing. They crammed down Bank of America. They crammed down, I think, US Bank on a second. He crammed them all down into 2, 3, 4%. So, a judge could actually look at this and say that 10% is unreasonable.
yeah, or hey,
And it's federal, it's not state. And that's so who knows?
wow, well, those are great things. And you know what? Maybe most of the time things go relatively well. It's just that when you've been around the block a few times, and you have too, Svetlana, and congratulations to you for just like deciding on a plan and moving and just doing it. I mean, so many people have analysis of paralysis. So I just want to acknowledge you for like, you got an
Thank you.
idea and you went 100% for it, 110%. And yeah, sometimes it's messy but you got going. So the most important thing is you're in action and you're doing stuff. You can always course correct and do a little better and kind of tie up those loose ends. But I would just say you're doing phenomenal and I'm not worried about
Thank you.
and so all of this other stuff is just from those of us who've been around maybe buying other people's stuff, especially and things that are far away. And I haven't had to deal with a cram down, and I haven't had to deal with a lot of the stuff that Sri does, especially buying seconds and buying in 39 states and all of this. So, but yeah, so to me, I would kind of wonder why you want to sell it. If you can cultivate your own buying partners. Okay. If you can say, hey, I don't care what the institutions are doing. Part of my note business, you say to yourself, okay, I originate notes. Okay. The other side of the note business is making your own partners. Right. And
Money partners. Yes.
when you create your own partners, you create your own market. You don't have to bow down to what are the institutions buying, right? But I would also, say when I do that, you're going to want to keep them very safe. So we're still back to selling them a partial or doing the 2-note model where you're only selling them a 70% and you're keeping because the minute your partners lose money, guess what? You don't have partners anymore. Right?
Yes. Investor comes first. Yes.
Right. So either way, you're going to be selling them. You're getting out with 180 to me is unreasonable unless you create it out of thin air, which you can do.
Yeah.
And that's a really important. Let's just pretend you're not a go-getter and you didn't create your own notes and you were just taking notes that you got from other people. What if you say, well, I see this loan where I could get paid 8%. I could get 8% and it's $100,000 loan. Well, or even if it was, let's do something ridiculous. Let's say there's someone offering they want a 5% loan. You know how you could still make money? Is you find someone that's good at 3.5%, right? So you are getting paid 5% and your money partner only needs 3.5%. Okay, now that's ridiculous, right? I mean, for most people, because you can get a T-bill at 5% or something, right? But I'm just saying the point is the spread, right? But the fact that you're a rainmaker, a deal maker, you know, gives you, you're in the driver's seat. So not only do you have the spread in the value of the real estate, you bought it for this, you sold it for this, but then you have the arbitrage spread that you'd probably do better unless you have a desperate need for something, for some cash, you just better just to sell an arbitrage and keep, basically you get most of your money back and you're still making a 1 or 2 point spread on it, not even counting the appreciation, but it's sort of phantom in this situation, right? You have that appreciation if everything goes well, right? Perfectly.
Well, I wouldn't count on that, but yeah, it would be
right.
nice.
So I'm just saying, if you can create a partner that says is happy with, you know, 8%, look at you. You can get, and you bring them in at, I don't know, 130, 140,000 might be the top. I would do something like that. Then you get most of your money back and you don't, you not only do you not take a discount, you make a premium. You're not discounting, you're making more because you're not discounting anything.
And my investor partner would be happy because there's like totally passive income for them. If anything, I am the one taking care of it. It can be I guess non-recourse.
Right.
If somebody
So-
can comment on that, I've never done it. So
well, basically, if I'm selling a front end partial or keeping a back end of the note somehow, I always say, hey, and of course I want to protect my interest. So I do all the elbow grease. So there's different ways you can put that in place and you can talk to your attorney about that. You know, what's the best, easiest, quickest way to do that for you. But yeah, you know, you can get 100 to 140 maybe at the top if you're pushing it, but if 160 and you're keeping them at 160 times 70%, you know, I don't know. I would probably cap someone out at about a 110, 115 on this, who's a novice investor, because if something happens to you, they're going to be freaking out. Right? Right. So, and that's one reason that, you know, if you get to doing that, right, I have an insurance policy, basically key man life on myself, so that if I die before I have all these things figured out, my estate can just say, pay off all the problems, take care of people, and then, you know, work things out. But
that is great. Yeah, great approach.
yeah, so it just depends on you know where you want to function, but
yeah.
I think you maybe hopefully got some ideas from this. This was a great
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, I enjoyed the conversation. Yes, and very helpful.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thanks.
And yeah, wishing you every success, and that's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for sticking around. As a reminder, subscribe, like, come over to notequeen.com. I would love to have you join the community, and I appreciate you, and continue to go out there and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. I will catch you around next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dawn.
Bye. Thanks, guys.